This is the new Ender 3 S1 from Creality, one of their latest FDM printers. Please join me as I take a look at this new product and see what kind of uses it might have for us scale modelers. Hello everyone, I'm Matt and this is Model Minutes. The product featured in this video was received from Creality free of charge for the purpose of review, but I've not been paid to create this video and all opinions remain my own. Thanks to Creality for choosing to send a review sample out to me. Without further ado, let's get into it. As with most things these days, a little self-assembly is required. All the parts come beautifully secured in the box with this black foam, helping to ensure that nothing was damaged on arrival. The instruction booklet is pretty small and I would have preferred it to be a bit bigger to make it easier to read, but the steps printed inside are reasonably easy to follow. There are some extra bits and pieces included in the box, including spare parts, a scraper, the necessary nuts and bolts, a selection of different tools, a pair of snips, and even an 8GB memory card and USB reader. The assembly of the printer was a little fiddly and took about half an hour, with care being needed to get all the parts lined up correctly without forcing them into place. The nuts and bolts help to fix everything together. There is a small screen holder that gets screwed into the right hand side of the printer, and after plugging in the screen, it simply slots into place. It's important to also not forget to plug in all the little wires into their correct sockets, including, of course, the power cable. And now I'm ready to get started. Well, almost. I start off by using the great auto bed leveling feature. I had been reluctant to get into FDM printing because I heard that it was quite complicated and getting everything level to start with was a bit of a pain, but this auto level system made it really easy. The printer came with a small spool of white PLA filament, which I thought I might as well get started with. I passed it through the filament detector and then into the nozzle. It was really that simple. The memory card was popped into its slot on the front of the printer and I selected my first file to print using the display screen. This is also easy to use, being a simple twist to change option and press of the dial to select. It's not a touchscreen though, which would have been a cool addition. And with that, I left my printer to do its thing. So, what came out first? Well, it was one of my own design T-gauge houses. That's 1:450 scale for those of you who were wondering why it's so small. It really is meant to be that small. I had been working on some of my own designs a little while ago, and I kind of wanted to see how well it would handle something so small. So I put it into the Creality Slicer software so the printer would know what to do. Just as a note though, everything I print in this video was done on the most basic of settings. I was trying to go for speed and to get to grips with as many things as possible. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with how it managed it. It's not perfect, and the really fine details like the window panes are missing, but it's certainly a usable model. So, with that done, I thought I might get on with printing a few more things. Sounds like time for a montage. Cool, so after an entire weekend of pretty much just constant printing, how have I got on? Generally, I don't feel that things were too bad, but that white filament that was included in the box wasn't amazing. I found that it wasn't sticking to the print bed too well and had a really chalky texture. I fiddled with some of the settings to make the nozzle hotter and reduce the layer height a little bit, but ultimately found I had better success printing in the black PLA, which I bought myself. I bought 3 spools of PLA filament to get myself started with this printer, one each in white, black and grey. I'm yet to try the other 2, but found the black printed pretty well. The filament change wasn't too hard either, simply pulling the old one out and swapping in the new one. But I'm sure you all want to know what kind of things I printed. And again, I must stress that everything was printed on basic settings for speed. Well, you know about those little houses already, and I found that in the black they actually came out a bit better, with the layers sticking to each other a little more. The micro sol holders are pretty good too. The white one has suffered from some of the same problems as mentioned earlier with the T-gauge house, where some of the PLA is not really sticking to the print bed and has a few stray strands of filament. The black one though is a much better quality. I printed one of my own design display bases, and the bottom layers on this aren't great either, but the top is okay. I also scaled this design up to be double the size and printed it in black. It took a while, but I think it could make a good base for those 1/72nd scale models. I currently have a bit of a paint storage problem on the workbench, as it looks a bit like this. My wife did make this rather attractive wall hanging pot holder, which is amazing, but I sadly have more paints than will fit. I decided to try out 2 different designs from Thingiverse, which I will link in the description. The first one is a more simple shelf-like design, which I printed in black, but I forgot that supports would probably be needed for this, so it was a little untidy and needed a bit of work to put it together, but it holds quite a lot of paint bottles and is pretty handy. The other paint rack is a more stylish design and also modular, so that you can extend it as you grow your paint selection. The only problem, other than holding less paints, is that it had a really long print time. For someone who is impatient like me, even on the quickest, low quality settings, it still took over 6 hours. I particularly like the Beacon Models pilot figures though. These are a free STL file from the Beacon Models website, and I scaled them up so that they would be about 1/24th scale. Again though, I forgot about the needs for supports, and some of those messy areas are definitely my fault for not putting them in. The layers on this white plastic hadn't melded together too well though, and one of the poor chaps has lost a foot. Easily glued on though, I'm sure. And whilst we are here, it's worth mentioning that the memory card comes preloaded with some files, so I decided to print the rabbit, which took 4 hours, the cat, which took 3, and the little coin thing that was about half an hour, just to see what the guys at Creality had come up with. On the whole, these 3 things look pretty good, and the details have come out pretty well. And that's something I want to look into in the future. Printing some of these things again on a higher detail setting to see what kind of thing we might be able to produce. Maybe the pilot figures would be a good idea to do this with. So if you would be interested in seeing a video about that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I think it's time to start rounding off this review. I'm pretty impressed with this new Ender 3 S1 from Creality. I always thought that FDM printing was much harder than the resin version I have a little experience with, but if I'm honest, I feel as though Creality have tried really hard to make this as easy as possible. All the parts were really well packed and laid out in the box, and even during the assembly of the printer, everything just had a quality feel to it. Nothing felt plasticky or cheap. The assembly was relatively straightforward too, once you had got to grips with that tiny instruction manual that is. All the parts either plugged, screwed or slotted together, which was really nice not having to resort to a tube of glue for once. I felt like I needed an extra pair of hands in a few places though, but it is possible to build this on your own. The auto level feature is absolutely fantastic too, allowing you to just get stuck in with learning about this new hobby without worrying that the first prints are going to be complete failures. And although some of my prints have a few issues here and there, none of them have been catastrophic failures. I did hope that the screen would be touch sensitive, but the button dial is easy enough to use and navigate, and the screen does power down after a while of inactivity to prevent screen burn. I particularly love that the build plate is magnetic and flexible too. It makes getting your prints off of it so much easier. I think I only used that little scraper once the entire time I was printing to help a tiny bit of plastic come off. Oh, and I almost forgot. Remember all those spare parts and pieces from the beginning of the video? Well, they are safely stored in this little tray included under the printer. That's a lovely little touch. So yeah, on the whole, I've been really impressed with this printer and I'm looking forward to getting some more things made. Whilst FDM printers aren't known for their particularly amazing levels of fine details in the prints, I think where this is going to come in really handy for me is for those scenic accessories where details aren't a great deal, or other extras like the paint stands and things that are going to make my life a whole lot easier. Whilst the price of this printer might put people off, I think that at the time of this review, given the quality and functionality that I have this far experienced, it seems pretty reasonable to me. So, if you're thinking of getting one, you should probably look around your house for somewhere to hide it. I did start the weekend using it on this old cabinet, but I pretty quickly changed it to this fancy new desk, and there is still plenty of room for other things. I wonder what else I should look at getting next. And with that, I think it's time to end this one here. Ultimately, I'm very impressed with this brand new printer from Creality, and I think it will make a great addition to a modeller's repertoire of tools. As always, massive thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members for the extra support they give my channel, allowing me to get all those little extra bits and pieces that help me carry on modelling. This week, some of your support went towards getting those filament rolls, so I'm really grateful to you guys for being instrumental in helping me create some of these prints. There is some more information in the description box if you're not a member and would like to find out about it. Also, whilst you're floating around under the video, clicking the thumbs up button, and in particular the big red one if you're new here, will help make sure you don't miss any new videos. A little further down, feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you think of this product and what you might be interested in printing. Also, as mentioned earlier, I'm hoping to try some of these prints out again but at higher quality settings to see what the details are like, so let me know if you'd like to see that too. Finally, I think the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I will see you on the workbench again next time.